Hello, everybody. We're back with the War Podcast with my two co-hosts, Frank and Don.
Yes, sir.
Thankful to be back on. We've taken a little break this summer and all. Been busy, and so we're excited to be back going. We got a sick guest with us today. His name's Josh Lynch, good buddy of mine, active in war. Become a good friend of Frank's and Don's, recovering addict. Josh, we're happy to have you on.
I'm grateful to be here. Privilege.
Yeah, man, I'm excited.
Josh, share with us how, you were talking about how, you were talking with your sister and how you realized that addicts were kind of, our brains work differently. Expand on that a bit.
Yeah, it's, so what me and her were talking about, and me and Dustin have talked about this a lot too. It's interesting. We want to take stuff so personal, like failures.
Yes.
And then we don't let it go. Like me, I drag it on and on. Like I'll think of something I said a month ago, and it'll start to ruin my day.
Yeah, be embarrassed about it.
Embarrassed.
I did that this morning. I was thinking of something that I did like 3 years ago. And,
yeah.
And I was like, this is what I say every time I think I get embarrassed. I always say a little prayer. I'm like, please God help me. Like when I'm embarrassed about something I did 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, dude.
Well, that's what I was talking. So Dustin's been doing some programming for me in the gym.
Yeah.
And like I was going through my old notes and like these simple, pretty easy workouts right from the get-go. I was like, dude, this is awesome. Thank you so much for this workout. And I was like, I'm such a dork.
What's wrong with that?
I felt like such a dork.
Well,
just because you were being so kind and
like our friendship
full of gratitude
has evolved. So maybe he was just like
I just barely knew Dustin at that time. He's probably.
I see what you're saying.
So this is a good example. I was thinking of what he was saying about that. I was like, I bet when he opened that, he's like, this kid's such a weirdo. And so I start thinking about what he's saying.
Yeah.
And then it starts tripping me out, and then I just start tearing myself up.
Dude, it is us addicts, though. That's what we do. I think we take things so personal and we hold on to it for an excuse to use. Mm-hmm. It's part of like our addiction. I think it's survival mechanism, a way to hang on and try to survive our recovery. I think so.
Well, that's like it's like I love talking about these type of topics, like the deep thinking of an addict, because it's like that's the disease. Like,
it is.
You know, like I've been working a lot on it. Talking a lot with Frank, about a lot of this stuff. It's interesting with what's going on with Frank is, well, he came into war but he's been going so hard, like working those steps. I've never worked the steps, and I'm just working them.
Yeah.
So he's already worked them, and so now it's almost like I'm going to him for ideas. I'm like, is this the right thinking? Because I'm twisted up.
Right.
So it's just interesting how recovery works with these deep type of, because that's the disease. So you're talking about insecurity, like, and we all are so like that. Like I want everybody to like me.
Of course.
Mm-hmm. I don't.
It's like we're just like grown children, basically, like with
So
all these
true.
fears and insecurities you're talking about. Like that happens to me. Like I'll think about something that happened a couple months ago, and like I'll be in bed and be like, oh man, I shouldn't have said that. That was so dumb.
Yeah.
Things like that normally should just like roll off my shoulder. But it's funny because these are kind of like human problems. I think a lot of people deal with these, but with addicts, it's like, I think more so, but also
Amped up, yeah.
It's like more important for us to like get through this stuff and to deal with these things in our head, because it's like more dangerous. They can take us to a worse place, whereas like a normal person might have like fears and insecurities and kind of character defects that they kind of just keep stumbling through life with, and it's not that big of a deal, but with us,
they're not going to die from it.
Yeah, exactly. It could lead us to a really dark place really quickly, so the stakes are kind of higher, so we have to hold ourselves to a higher standard almost of like the way we view and react to the world and to life.
Yeah,
it's like,
go ahead.
Oh, it's like, and that's perfect. Like with my sister. So I was talking to my baby sister today, and I love that girl. She's helped me so much in recovery just by supporting. Like she's gotten in and really encouraged me to do some things out of my comfort zone, and she's normal. Like she can handle. So like I say, I was listening to a conference talk. We're members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I was listening to a conference talk, and one of the prophets said something. I take it so literal. Like, he's like, yeah, this is the type of guy I want to be around. He lists all these things, and I'm like, well, I'm not that guy. I'm not perfect. Like, I mess up at this, and like out of the 10 things he listed, 9 of them I suck at.
Right.
And so I'm like, well, the prophet wouldn't even want to hang out with me. And I just start getting twisted up in my head. And she just starts laughing, and she's like, that's so crazy how like you take stuff so literal.
Yeah.
And she's like, I listen to that, and it's all, those are things to strive for. That'd be good to be that person. Those are things to set some goals and try to be better at.
Right.
Which I do. I'm trying to be better at that stuff, but it's all or nothing.
Right.
Like, I'm either perfect now or else I'm a complete failure. And that's something I got to fight with all the time. I got to compete with that in my head and her, it's just natural. She lets
it roll off her back.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. It's interesting.
It's extremely interesting. I mean, I'm just trying to think of how often I do that, and I'll ask my girl all the time. I'll be like, "Gosh, did they like look at me weird? Like when I said that, like did they think that sounded stupid? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, and yeah, it does happen a lot, and I really do think it's like a way for our disease to try to hang on, because in the past, that's what used to keep us in that safety zone, right, of being loaded.
Yeah.
It would keep us loaded.
Well, there's a whole bunch of reasons that we like drink or use, or like if we got clean and like relapse. I was a chronic relapser.
Yeah.
That was like my story for a long time. And one of the things that would bring me back into it was like a shame cycle or a guilt cycle.
Exactly.
Where I'd feel bad about something and then just like let it build up to this thing where it's like, well, I'm just a failure and a screw up anyways.
So
I might as well live that on the outside and just, you know, go use again, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think that is true with that it's like an excuse for us to try to hang on or get back into it, you know, just for our inner addicts to get the foot in the door again.
Yeah, almost. It's always fighting us.
Yeah.
It's always fighting us.
And that's what you hear all the time. You hear addicts and stuff talk about when they first take that drug, like their drug of choice. It's like a warm blanket. It gets rid of everything, our insecurities. And it's funny because my wife, like mine's opioids. My wife's taking painkillers. She hates them.
Right. I never understood that.
I mean, either.
And like,
it's like
even,
they make you sick. Well, just get used to them, right?
or take more.
Yeah, you just snort them.
You didn't snort. No, but like alcohol. I don't love being drunk.
Right.
But I'm definitely an alcoholic.
For sure.
And so like, if I really think about the effects of alcohol and what it does to me, I don't love it. But what it takes away outweighs like those insecurities, that uncomfort in my own skin.
Right.
It takes that away, and it's just at first it's worth it. You'll do anything to get it. 'Cause
Right.
It feels so good.
I heard the progression like listed in a way that I could really relate to recently, where it's like for most of us alcoholics or drug addicts, like it started as, you know, kind of fun. So we used it because it was fun or because it did something for us, you know, like that sense of ease and comfort, that shoulder drop, like, I feel good, you know? And then it turned from fun into like a lifestyle where like that became our identity and we were doing that. And then it progressed past a lifestyle to like straight survival. We were doing it just to survive or just to get through the day. And like I think that progression is painted beautifully, where it's like starts from fun,
so true.
turns into a
Identity.
lifestyle.
Or lifestyle. Then
and then it turns into just doing it for survival.
Yeah.
Just doing it to feel normal.
Yeah, just to show up to work on time.
Yeah.
You know, just
to open your mail.
Yeah, just to open your mail.
I remember I couldn't open my mail.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I was so scared of opening my mail, but not when I threw a couple in the back of my throat. It's like,
Yeah, then
let's open the mail.
do mail time. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just.
I was talking to a newcomer the other day who had problems with drinking, and kind of like Josh, like drinking was never my main problem. You know, what really brought me down, especially the past 5-8 years, was heroin. But I was looking back, and I definitely am an alcoholic, but there was a time of my life when I was in college. It was a good 6 or 9 months where every single day I would start the day by drinking a 40 ounce of malt liquor. So I'd get out of bed, drink a 40, smoke a blunt, smoke some weed, and that was just to start the day. If I didn't do that, I would be like messed up, you know?
Probably wouldn't even get out of bed, right?
Yeah, probably stay in bed till 3, 4 p.m., you know, and then like
Depressed.
Roll out to eat and then.
And it's like so funny because it's like for a normal person, like right now, if I were to drink a 40 ounce of malt liquor and smoke a blunt, I would be wrecked on my ass. But that was just to get me sober. Like basically, that was to get me to like, so I could start the day and face the world,
So
you know?
you go to class.
Yeah, exactly. And then later on in the day, I can do other drugs to actually get messed up. But that was just to get to like a stasis, to like back to a normal level.
Wow.
Well, and I don't know like about you, but like, and I think that's like, it's somewhat normal, but it's the way we handle it and the way we catastrophize stuff is what is the disease. So I think everybody laying in bed, you wake up in the morning, you're like, oh shit, I gotta do this. You start going through like the worst case scenario and everything, all the hard things we gotta do, and you don't want to get out of bed. You're comfortable and like, but we take it to the next level because then we got all these hard things we gotta do, and then it just gets worse and worse and snowballs.
Right.
Because that's what I was. I had stuff hidden right by my bed that I had to take those and let that kick in before I could even get up out of bed and face the day.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, I used to, my alarm would go off. I'd have my pills in some water, take them, go back to sleep, and then let the pills wake me up. You know,
That's exactly how it happened.
Shower, and I'm so, yeah, that's dark.
Yeah, I would get an Oxy 80, 2 of them, 1 for each nostril, like chopped up the night before, and then would wake up and just snort them, then go back to bed, and then let them wake me up. Let them wake me right up and be like, oh yeah, now I'm ready to rock. Yeah. Now I can face whatever I need to face, but that's so backwards.
Ready
It's
to rock
crazy.
for 30 minutes.
Yeah, then you need to get more.
Yeah.
Just an insane lifestyle. But I think it's funny because I relate to being alcoholic as it's kind of described, like suffering from the disease of alcoholism, you know, where it's like, even if like for that little period, alcohol was a problem for me, but like it's not what really brought me down, or it's like, for a lot of people, it's more of like a slow thing dragging them down, more as like, rather than something like heroin or meth, where it's like, that'll quickly like take you to rock bottom. But another idea that I really like that kind of like unites all of us, no matter what it looked like, no matter what the drug of choice was, whether it was like you were homeless on Skid Row, or like, maybe you just had a rocky marriage or almost got fired from a job, or maybe it was as simple as you tried to stop drinking and you couldn't, or tried to stop smoking weed or doing pills and you couldn't, It can look like any different substance or any different kind of form of however bad it got for you personally. But one thing I relate to is that like we had a God-sized hole that we were trying to fill with drugs and alcohol. And it's like we get sober and we have the same problem where it's like if you don't fix the root cause of it, if you just stop using, it's like you have a God-sized hole you're trying to fill with like a new truck or a promotion at work or like, status in life. And it's like the same problem. It's like the guy said at the meeting the other day, like our problem, like my problem was I was a drunk horse thief. I got sober and I'm still a horse thief.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like we need to do something to address the root cause of it. So it's like obviously we need to get clean and dry out, but then what else are we going to do past that to kind of fix what's going on in our minds and in our spirits? And I think, Josh, you do a really good job of that. You always say really good stuff to me or on point spiritually, and I really appreciate that.
Well, that's awesome that you brought that up, because like that's what I've been focusing on so hard lately is elevating my spiritual condition, because I feel like everything we focus on so much that can take us down so quick is temporal. Like it's just this life, a truck, a brand new car is that's temporary. That's going to go away one day.
Oh, wow, absolutely.
And it's not going to serve a purpose, But when we elevate our spiritual condition, that's going to be around forever. And then as we do that, our temporal things will elevate with it.
Yeah.
And match it. And it's just life becomes
like that.
And life becomes so much more fulfilling. Like, so when I'm laying in bed today and it's hard to get up, if I think of one little thing, like, I can get up to the gym and have an awesome conversation with Frank or Dustin and see them, I can jump right up. Because it's that elevated spiritual condition, that beautiful conversation that Dustin always talks about. Or you look at just one of the positives, all the negatives will go away pretty quick.
Yeah.
For me.
It's more fulfilling and lasting because, like you said, like you get a new truck or something, and it's like everything that you're excited about in life that's material is in a constant state of like decay with like how excited you are.
Right. Soon it'll be a burden.
Right now it's sick, but like 3 months from now, it's like I'm not going to be like wake up, oh, I just got a new truck, it's so sick or whatever. It's like
I need an oil change
a
now.
new haircut or whatever. It's like a new, like everything that you get that's like material, you know, you'll get all stoked about it, and then like, or you just like moving into a new house. It's awesome,
Yeah.
exciting. 6 months from now, or like a year from now, it'll just be like your regular house.
Oh, yeah,
you know?
exactly.
The air
In a month when
the
that
heater's
payment-
going to go out.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. That's when it becomes a burden.
Right.
You got to make that payment.
And
That
so-
first payment, you're like, damn, this house isn't as cool anymore.
So you can try to keep capturing that fleeting sense of like excitement that you get over material things, or that like, you know, little jump. Yeah, life's good, you know, like
Right.
my status or my new promotion or whatever. Or you can go for the more lasting sense of fulfillment, which is spiritual. And it's hard for a lot of people to grasp, especially people like me that I didn't really grow up with like a strong like religion or like foundational religion or anything. But that's something I've grasped recently, just my spirituality, which like I wouldn't trade for anything in the world.
Yeah, and that's spiritual. Like, so like, let's talk about that. Like, yeah, what does a spiritual person look like? So, you know, for me,
Watch out. Josh is going to say, I don't look like any of these things.
Well, no, like
I'm
well,
already
I-
tripping out of my shirt and shoes.
like I'm really getting, like, for me, I'm seeing a lot of my character defects as of lately, and the things that cause me to lose peace. Like when I'm a spiritual dude, like I'm there's nothing going on that I'm overly competitive towards other people. I'm kind. I'm the no resentments. I'm
Accepting.
I'm there with my kids, you know. But the times when I can't keep that spiritual is when I get 3 or 4 mad. I'm mad or building out these assumptions that this person's thinking this about me, and then, you know, just getting twisted up, and then you can't, you know, it talks about in the book, Big Book, you know, the number one the offenders of blocking the spirit is resentments, fear, harms done to, and harms, right?
Right.
And like that is true.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I first read it and started studying that concept, I was like, yeah, all right, let's test this. And it really is like.
Yeah. And it's vice versa too. Like if you are letting your spiritual condition slip and not focusing on those attitudes as much, and like focusing on a connection with something greater, like those resentments and fears can more easily slip in. I know if I've been being lazy about it and I had like a really long, tough day, and I don't like take a moment to try to meditate or calm down or think about like goals and priorities, and then the next morning I sleep in, like, you know, something little could happen that would piss me off. Like I know a couple weeks ago that happened, and my girlfriend made me a smoothie, and you know, I was all pissed because I didn't like the ingredients in it. You know, I was like, oh, what the hell? Who does she think she
How
is?
dare
like,
you make me a
doing
wrong
this?
smoothie?
Yeah, it's too thick. Like, I don't like any of this. But it's like if I'm in fit spiritual condition, I'd be up
You'd be so
helping her make it. I'd be
yeah.
helping clean the apartment. Be like, thank you so much. I'm so
Yeah,
grateful
like,
for
so
this.
grateful.
But when I'm in a bad spot, I'm like looking for any little thing
Oh, I get it.
to piss me off, you know? And I'm not trying to do it. It's just like subconscious. It's just happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, next thing you know, you're mad.
Yeah, it's
And
a dark place
a
to be in.
spiritual person to me, like, too, is a confident person.
Right.
And like confidence gets linked up with like arrogance and stuff, but a confident person, they aren't easily offended, which resentments, right? They aren't going to get pissed off because someone messed up your smoothie.
Yeah.
Like it's more understand, like when you're confident, you can understand people a little bit more. You understand like confidence is a huge thing.
Right.
And people can say stuff and you don't trip out about what they're thinking about you, or
Right.
if they really meant that. And so that's something that I've noticed when I'm really tied into that and working good at that. It's confidence, which leads to love. Like you can just love people better, in a general love.
I think that's the key, is love. Like that's the best way to notice a spiritual person.
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
They're just love.
Yeah.
They radiate love. They share love. They focus on love. The guy that I think about is that guy I was telling you about from Brazil. I told you about him before. That's all he talks about is love. You know what I mean? It's, the most confident person when you're talking about these things. I'm always apologizing to him because I'm like, oh, he thinks I probably don't stay in touch with him enough. Like, you know, it's like, no, he's living his life. He's just grateful whenever I could reach out to him and talk to him.
whenever
You know what I mean? And it's, and you build up all these things in your head. But, if you can just get in touch with love. But I get how do you tell someone that's not a spiritual person, how would you recommend they learn on, like, let's say an addict doesn't really have a good connection with their higher power. How do you lead them to it?
Well, in war, we start simply. It's like our spiritual program doesn't always have to take place in a church. It's like we go outside, we go for a walk or a jog, and try to capture gratitude. And being thankful for where you're at. Notice some scenery, send out some healthy text messages to people you love and care about. And that's what you said. It's like tying back into that theme of love. And a lot of it is like gratitude and being outside in nature and doing these things where you're kind of slowing down and disconnecting from the hustle and bustle of life a little bit more. I think you're more able to capture a connection like that.
Yeah,
I'd agree.
Start them with that, and then higher power. A lot of people struggle with the higher power concept, but the way we talk about it is develop your own understanding of a higher power. What does your higher power look like, or are you open to trying to develop a belief system in a higher power? Most people are like, yeah. When you talk to them about it that way,
it's basically realizing you yourself are not the end all be all. It's
you're not sufficient.
If I think that I am the alpha and omega, it's like I definitely have something twisted, because when I'm starting people simply and realizing powerlessness and that there is a greater power. It's like, well, think about anything that's more powerful than you. Avalanches, the ocean, any group of people. Anything is that you can basically point a finger at is more powerful than you, singularly.
Absolutely.
And so you can just start from that as a theoretical concept, and then move out to where it stops becoming just a thing you think about and something that you feel and understand to your core.
And I want to say
that's
something on your higher power. So I grew up in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Mormon Church, and I never lost belief of a higher power of God. What I lost belief in was my worthiness to God. I wasn't worth anything to Him because I didn't meet all these criterias. And I look back at that, and that AA has helped me out with this tons. And that's that whole concept of, what does your higher power look like to you? What does God look like to you? And the example that I have is my dad. He has I got 5 sisters and me, so he's got 6 kids, and we all have a different relationship with him. I look at my dad different than my sisters do.
Right.
And that's the same thing with God. We all have God's not just this is who He is, and if you believe in Him this way and He affects your life this way, then you're good. That's God. Anything outside of that, you're wrong. That's not God.
Right.
And so for me, it was huge to say, okay, let me look at God what I would imagine God as being, and switching that and a loving person that forgives his kid for messing up and forgives his son, which I would, to any of my kids, and being able to understand him as a different thing than what I interpreted through all my life of what people were teaching me, and personalize that relationship with him. I think that's key, is just getting a personal relationship with him. Now, however it is, whatever, and I've seen people the mountains are a higher power to them. They go up which I agree with 100%. God's Spirit's all over in the mountains. Mm-hmm. His just natural growth, natural beauty that just shows up and grows back every single year. There's something to that, and God's hand's there. So if that's their higher power and that works, run with it. Do with it and get closer.
Would you say in your addiction, so you couldn't figure out how to use God? Because it sounds like to me, we've talked about this a lot. It sounds like to me that you always looked at God as He just got His back to you.
Judgmental.
Yeah. No, Josh.
And He said that He wasn't worthy.
So is that kind of how you...
The confidence loss, almost like you're talking about.
So you couldn't figure out how to allow a spirit into your heart.
Exactly.
Because you felt it was actively pushing you out of it. Out of His heart.
So I served a 2-year mission, the whole 2 years, and it was crazy because I would read or study something, and it was never for me, which it was. I'd read something, that's so cool, that'll help so much. I was almost lost cause for God, Like I couldn't allow, like, his influence, like Dustin was saying, I couldn't allow his influence in my life because I just was a lost cause. I abandoned ship. And he had his shoulder to me. He's a disappointed, bugged God.
Yeah.
Because everything I did screwed up.
So how did that turn? So how? Talk about how that turned around. How did you get that turned around? 'Cause I think there's a lot of people, especially in this state, that have that. I've worked with a lot of people with that.
Because I think a lot of it sometimes, again, might have to do with the way that God is seen in your specific religion. I mean, I never saw God as ever. I never saw that I had to be worthy. You know what I mean? But and I'm just saying it's, I don't know, like people that I've seen a lot with, and maybe it's ubiquitous. But like you said, in the state, I think there's a lot of people that I know, addicts specifically, that have thought that God doesn't even have a moment for them anymore. Like he's just judging them. And I always thought God was there for me whenever I was wanting him. But
I mean, the thing that I love, so I got into the Mormon church, which we've talked about. That's been Christ is my higher power. And there's accountability, right? I need that a little bit. So like when I guess sin, or when I have been in relapse, or maybe treated somebody wrong, or like, and it's the same thing with the steps. I mean, I feel bad. Mm-hmm. Contrite is the word I like to use. So each night when I'm down on my knees in prayer, I apologize. I say, God, help me to be better. You know, I did this and that. You know, it's almost like a step 10, right? Mm-hmm. Performing a step 10 with, so I can see, but never have I ever felt like he doesn't forgive me. Like it's like I get back up and, all right, man, it's just like my dad, you know, he's pissed off at me when I'm a kid, and when I'm, you know, throw a rock through the front window, and he's pissed, and, you know, maybe says a couple F words at me, and but then, you know, an hour and a half later, he's got his arm, we're all right, we'll get a new window, buddy, come on, you know, It's not the end of the world. So I kind of see God like that, like he kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so where I flipped that switch, and something I just read, which is cool, and it meant a lot to me, is God is like a seed giver. He goes out and he throws seeds, and that's his blessings, his love, he wants to be in our lives. But the important thing is I can go throw seeds out on that asphalt. It's not going to do nothing. Mm-hmm. But the important thing is the condition of the soil, right? And that's like my trying to elevate my spiritual condition all the time is I'm trying to condition my soil. I'm throwing in soil pep, you know, manure every once in a while, and like trying to keep it soft. So when I receive those seeds, they actually sink in and they actually mean something to me, and I can acknowledge them for what they are. Yeah. Yeah. And that's the effort that I think, Dustin, like that being contrite and that effort that you're making, instead of going into the shame cycle, which I think I always did, is I'm a screw up, I'm a piece of crap. Instead of I messed up and I want to get better, and this is just part of tilling up my soil and getting it loosened up so I can acknowledge those blessings and those gifts from God a little bit better, let them sink in instead of just landing on some asphalt and burning up in the sun.
Oh, absolutely. I like the phrase. Analogy. It's like in this Nas song, but it's like you take one step towards him, he takes two towards you. But you have to take the first step, kind of. It's not like you can just expect to be lazy or, you know, like you were saying, sin, like be a dick to people and do whatever you want with your life and expect all these blessings to be bestowed upon you. You have to kind of make an effort. And it kind of talks about that in the AA Big Book too, how like faith without works is dead. Like if you just believe in God but don't do anything about it, I don't think it's going to do you much. It has to be paired with like
trying to act different.
Exactly. With some selfless action, you know, some steps towards like, you know, trying to make a connection, trying to help others, trying to be the best person you can be.
Yeah. Which is difficult.
Yeah. But it is. And going back to, you know, Don's point, like, yeah, I have seen a lot of people that have come to war and I've worked with these past 9-10 years that are like, they can't figure out how to use God in the recovery, and because of like just, and it's not their parents' fault. I don't know what happened. I don't know. I wasn't brought up like that, like where, like, I think fanatical, like you have fanatical things in every religion, or fanatical people that take stuff. And so it almost like teaches some people they just can't figure out how to use. And so that's what has been awesome about these 12 steps is it can help people figure out how to use a higher power in their recovery.
I think the 12 steps are some of the most like important spiritual principles, like in one of the most important spiritual pieces of literature that's ever been written, because it's like a path towards making a connection. That's what it says the AA Big Book's primary purpose is to connect you with a power greater than yourself that will help solve your problem. And it's like it lays down steps which are not easy, but they're simple. And if most people that follow them, like it says, rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed this path. I mean, they're just universal principles. If you look at what it's talking about, honesty, willingness, humility, open-mindedness, it's the same thing that would be tenets of like the LDS Church or Catholic faith or Judaism,
Book of Mormon,
all of these different things, which is cool. Is like if you see all these different religions, going from Judaism to, these religions to, Islam, Buddhism, whatever, it's like most of them share the exact same principles and exact same tenets. And so it's like, who am I to say that like someone is wrong or whatever for their conception, because like the way they look at it and their relationship, like you said, is different for everyone. All you and all your siblings have a different relationship with your higher power. Like I'm not going to be one to say that 2 billion, Muslims are wrong for the way that they practice, their religion, or Buddhists, or whatever. It's like all the same tenets and principles, but I like the way like the Big Book is laid out, because it's like a simple way to go about making a connection with a power greater than yourself.
Yeah. When I think so for me, what's so important, and Dustin asked this before, like kind of what flipped that switch for me, I've always said like honesty to me now, honesty opens up the door to shine light of the Spirit to dark places. Mm-hmm. And it's so hard to be honest, and it's, it's a, what is it, first step in the 12 steps is honesty, saying that I can't control this and my life's out of control, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's such an important step, and to be 100% honest, which we don't know how to do.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't grasp that concept at first in early recovery, like being 100% honest, like that didn't make sense. You have to lie to survive a little bit.
Right.
And so like you're honest, and it just opens up that. And I love in the Big Book where it talks about religion. He's talking about religion. He goes, if we're really honest with ourselves, we could look at those people and say, okay, maybe I could take a page out of their book, because they're living a lot better life than I am. Even though I want to sit back and criticize them and say, oh, look at what they do here and do there. But at the end of the day, being connected to that higher power, whatever way you can get there, you're going to be a better person, because it gets you out of yourself. Like you quit thinking about yourself, which yourself, we'll always fail ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever our expectation we put on ourselves, we're going to fail that expectation, because we're just humans. And so you get a higher power that can step in and fill that God-sized hole like Frank was talking about, and that's where healing comes. But like in treatment, I was finally got broken down to where I was honest. I got called out for my mask, for my walls, for my BS that I was putting out there. And like 2 days before I went home, had to read my 4th step, pretty much my autobiography, in front of the whole group, which I wrote everything in there that I could to get out, because my counselor was going to fix me in treatment. That was my thought. He was going to read it and say, okay, I know where you're screwed up. Let's fix it.
So you were honest in it.
I was honest.
Okay, yeah.
Way honest. Wrote stuff I haven't said to anybody.
Right.
Then I had to read that in front of 9 strangers that I met in treatment. And I read that, and it humbled me, and like I was bawling, I was sweating. And as soon as that hour was up, I grabbed my stuff and ran into my room. And I hit my knees. That's the only thing I could think of doing, is hit my knees and praying. And I didn't even get a word out. I had an incredible experience there with, so I was going to, divorce was pretty high up on my list when I came out of treatment, and a lot of it was because my wife deserved so much better than me.
This the shame stuff.
Meaning you were wanting to go that route.
Yeah.
Because,
it was going to help her.
Right.
Like jump ship a little bit earlier. Yeah, we had 4 kids, but she could find something better than me, than what I was putting her through. And then I was gonna go inactive. I was gonna step away from the LDS church because of shame.
Right.
I linked everything up with my shame. Well, and everything with my shame was caused by the LDS church. They got some strict, accountability. You don't drink, you don't smoke, you don't use drugs. And so I said, God, if I could get rid of that and just kind of live my life, then I would get rid of a lot of the shame in my life. And so in the room, when I hit my knees, I was overcome with an amazing feeling of just, like, I felt what my wife felt. Like, I felt that she loves me, she supports me, she just wanted me to be me. She wanted to know who her husband was and how lonely and scared she was and how lonely and scared she's been. Like, I felt those feelings, and I was crying and bawling, and then a feeling came in that I've always had the desire to help people. I want to help through my story, and that I was gonna, with the platform of the church could offer to me, I'd be a little bit better. It'd be better to stay in the church.
Right.
And the most important thing I learned from there is forget about all your misconceived ideas. Like, forget about all these ideas you developed as being a sick person. Because my first drink was when I was 12 years old. And so while my mind was developing and my ideas of life, I was a sick person. I was already acting out on my addict behaviors. And so all my misconceived ideas up to this point were wrong. It was a disease that helped me form all these ideas.
Right.
And so I was told, get rid of all that. Just work on your relationship with me and the Savior, and let's march forward. Do it your way. Like, if it means don't go to church one Sunday because you aren't feeling right and you want to go on a hike with your family, do it. Which in my mind was a huge no-no.
It was not acceptable.
God would not love you if you did something like that.
Right, but you heard him saying it was okay.
I did. I heard
man.
him, and I felt him saying it's okay. Work on this, and just work on your relationship with me. If you work on your relationship with me, everything else is going to be worked out.
Yeah.
And so, and it's crazy. So going into treatment, I remember one night I got in and I prayed, and I was asking for forgiveness of stuff I did when I was 13 years old.
Jeez,
And
you were holding on for stuff that long.
Holding on for this stuff that long, and I was 32 when I went into treatment.
It's like 20 years of stuff.
20 years of stuff going through and just saying, I'm so sorry, like, forgive me. And that was the huge thing, is I felt two amazing, incredible human people hugging me and embracing me and saying, forget it all. It's all gone. Like, forget it. Let's start from new here. Let's move forward. And so when I felt that love, I had that experience, and it was a game changer for me.
That spiritual experience that it talks about in the big book.
Yeah.
That's it.
And I picked that apart. It came because I was honest finally.
Right, exactly.
Finally honest. Like, even when, like, confessions and stuff and, like, telling my wife stuff, I always held back a little bit.
Of course, yeah.
I didn't want to think too poorly of me.
Right, exactly.
So I always keep a little golden.
I'll just give them the truth that'll work for them, for me, but for them.
We'll get them off my case.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they don't have to know how much of a piece of crap I really am.
Right,
I'll
exactly.
get those little golden nuggets later. And so that was what confession and was to me. But when I was finally 100% honest, it opened up the doors for that light to shine in, and just to cleanse, and cleanse my soul. And that experience was incredible. I hang on to that experience. Like, just being able to feel what my wife felt, like, that's helped me through so many arguments to today. Like, we start thinking, I just think, oh, like, I'm probably making her feel like lonely again. I felt
scared
what that
again,
felt like, and scared again. And I'm not so critical when she's still, I'm going on 27 months clean, and she's still, like, gets worried. Like, why'd you get up last night and go into the kitchen? What are you doing, Yeah. And that used to piss me off, because I wanted recognition. Like, look how good I'm. And now there's a little bit more empathy, a little bit more love to that, saying, oh, I felt what she was feeling, and I'm causing that again. And so it was a huge blessing, huge turning point in my recovery. But that's when, me trying to just work with God and understand. And today I'm still reading, I'm still working on that hard to elevate that spiritual condition and have that relationship with God, and through AA, through the steps, through the 12-step program that the church offers.
Tell us about that. Go into that if you would.
The 12 step.
Well, I think everyone needs to know a little bit about, just a little bit about your story. You know, opiate addict and where it kind of went. You know, maybe not the whole thing, but just tell us, and then tell us about the work you're doing now and what you're doing with WAR.
All right. Yeah. So, I was a hard opioid addict. Abused pills every way I could. Towards the end, got into heroin, which is amazing. I didn't die because I don't know anything about that. I never got over my fear of needles, like sticking myself, and so I figured out a way. I was trusting a drug dealer to tell me how to use heroin. So I was dabbling back and forth. There was an overdose in there, losing it, and got really low. Went into treatment, and then came out and hit AA and NA really hard. I committed to like a 90 and 90, which in the recovery world is 90 meetings in 90 days. Committed to that, and it was amazing. It helped me a lot with that higher power to go in and see guys breaking these misconceived ideas, you know, up there dropping the F-bomb, F this, F that, and rough-looking guys, and I effing hate this and that sometimes, but like God loves me, and I love God, and God will get me out of it. And I was just like, whoa. I didn't know God loved people that said the F word. But like the going back to feelings, like I could feel it, and I like that guy, his testimony, and like his like up there proclaiming that God loves him, and it was so true. So it helped me like get out of that little bubble that I was in, which was huge. And so I was gonna stick in those rooms. Like I was trying to find a home group. I went to this, so they call it the addiction recovery program in the church. The Mormon church has a program they run, and I went to a few of those meetings, and I really related to a lot of guys there, and it ended up becoming like my home group, and I kind of stuck with those church meetings a little bit more, and so what they are is they've adopted the 12-step program from Alcoholics Anonymous. In the front of their manual, they have the 12 steps as AA has it, and then they went and just put their little twists. They're the same steps, but they put their twist. Their higher power is Jesus Christ.
Right.
Yeah.
Like they're just a little bit more forward that this is our. And so me and Dustin always talk about it. It's the 12 steps.
That's the only difference, right? Is just they replaced that word.
They replaced.
And it's a little different. It's a different written manual. Like it's the manual.
But the steps themselves.
The steps are exactly the same.
Right.
Same
exactly
program.
the same.
Yeah.
There's more direct. Instead of higher power, it's the Savior or the atonement.
They
It's
pull in
Jesus
scriptures
Christ.
and stuff.
Right.
And so they're related to like the Book of Mormon and the Bible, and
Right.
so
Yeah, and it's a manual. It's
Yeah.
it's like a workbook. It's a workbook that you can go through and work your steps as a workbook type of. And then me and Dustin always joke about it. It's like for us, it is the 12 steps to accessing the atonement of Jesus Christ. Like that's what the 12 steps are.
Right.
It helps you access that atonement, that power, and that love of Jesus Christ. And so you fast forward a little bit, and I kind of, they have like facilitators is what they call them in their meetings. So they have a meeting every night all the way around here. They're everywhere. And so a facilitator is someone that has got some clean time and can facilitate the meeting. They kind of help these. And then you have two missionaries. The church calls two missionaries as a service missionary to kind of coordinate and be there at the meetings. And so I did that.
Are they in recovery?
Some
of
are
them,
and
yeah.
some aren't.
Okay.
or some are like have been affected, like they had a son or a daughter that, you know, you get some older couples
Right.
whose kids maybe had struggled, so they're pretty, you know,
They have a
kind of
connection
have
to
a
it.
connection to it
Yeah.
in some way usually.
But the facilitator is always someone that's in
Facilitator
recovery.
could just be like someone that comes to the meeting all the time.
But someone in
Right.
recovery.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Like if I'm going to that meeting for the home group, they might ask me to be the facilitator.
Right.
Most of them are in recovery.
Yeah.
Most of them are, and the church offers. So it's a general addiction. So in the same meeting, you'll have alcoholics, you'll have guys that are struggling with porn and sex addictions, and then drug addicts. So you have a group. I saw a lady in there, which at first it was kind of funny because I was like, oh, a food addict. She said I'm addicted
it's
to food,
real.
and I was like, come on, like I used to snort and shoot heroin. Like how this guy's an alcoholic over here. You drink half a gallon of vodka every day, like food.
Right.
But like when she would talk, her way of thinking
exactly
the same as us.
Well, I noticed that too. Like I would do the same thing when I was active in those meetings, and I realized that her problem with food in her mind is every bit as hard as a problem as your heroin.
Yeah.
So like in her mind, it's like devastating. Like
consumes everything.
It's the same thing.
Well, it can be even harder too.
I was gonna say, think about
she
that.
She has to like learn how to have a healthy relationship with food.
Yeah.
That's like if I had to like do heroin every day responsibly.
Dude, it's not gonna happen.
It's really difficult. Like it's a whole different ball game, and so it's like I commend people for.
Yeah.
But I can see how it could get there. Like Dustin, you talk about your issues with food and the keto. Like I notice that all the time. Like I'm trying to really like buy in, like go all the way in this nutrition thing, and it's hard. Like I'll be late at night before I go to bed, like, oh man, I just need some ice cream, and it's like there's like one little guilty thing I still have, and it's like hard to get over because it's like I know it's not life and death, so it's like not a huge deal if I go out and get McDonald's or whatever, but it's like in my mind I feel bad about it, and it's like I can see how that could get into like snowball into a bigger problem for sure.
Well, and if you're someone who your health has just gone completely to the wayside because of your relationship with food. I mean, it can destroy your body as much as heroin can wreck our bodies.
Food will kill you.
Food will kill you. Food kills more people than heroin. I mean, heart disease.
That's true if you look at it that way.
Heart disease, diabetes, you start losing limbs. Like it's like food's bad. Like an unhealthy relationship with food,
which
is
bad. Pretty serious.
Which so most substance abusers, they get clean, I mean, end up having issues with food. Like, my
addiction manifests itself in another way.
A guy who I met through, who came to me with help with food. He's got plenty of clean time from substance abuse, but it's moved in to food. He's gotten overweight and it affected his spiritual condition in the same way. And so like food's real, man. Especially the super normally stimulating, beautiful shit that's coming out nowadays.
Like your ice cream Snicker bars.
Just goes right onto our taste buds, and it's just a magical party on our tongue. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what's been awesome about those meetings is like, because I've been able to catch stuff, definitely food, like even like sex. Like, so you got a guy in there that's struggling with pornography, which in my opinion, in this religion, there's such a harsh like set up like boundaries against substances, alcohol, but pornography and sex. It's kind of, but like I've had to hone in and make sure, like really focus on with like my wife. Like, what am I trying to fill a void? Have I been stressed out today and I'm just using my wife and sex with her to just cope with my day? And I've learned that through those meetings, like to really hone in and really try to focus in on stuff and say, this is not a very healthy, like we get done with relations and like I'm empty. I'm laying there empty and I feel bad and I feel guilty, and it's because you can use all that stuff as coping mechanisms.
So you're saying like you manipulated your wife to have sex with you, like so that you could feel better about your life.
You're having such a hard time saying that.
But I know where you're coming. I know what you're saying, but I never thought that was a bad thing. But now I understand it could be.
And I learned that from a guy in one of these meetings. But like I manipulated it big time. Like played like a poor little husband that's working so hard.
So I just got off like a 12-hour day at work.
Babe, at least you could have sex with me. Like, what am I, disgusting? Do I just gross you out?
And you go into self-pity.
And then finally she's like, oh, whatever. And then you get done and you're just like, man, that was kind of empty. But like, it's just like that whole elevating my spiritual condition. Once again, I'm going to beat that into the ground. But it's been huge for me because, like, if I'm feeling guilt and shame about something, that's going to bring me down. And I might not go out and start using pills again or heroin the next day. But if I stay in that cycle, it's not going to be very long.
Right.
And so I'm just trying to, and that's what those meetings have blessed my life. Crazy about that. Because the same thing with porn, you know? Like I had a guy come in and he's talking about he's a porn addict, and I was like, we've all looked at porn. Like, you know what I mean? Like, where do you draw? But then you start, once again, he starts saying what it does to him, what it's going through his
and he
mind.
needs to look at it to get up out of bed. He needs to use it to before a meeting,
He's
before a
taking
stressful
lunch
after,
breaks,
Yeah.
multiple breaks to go into the bathroom, and like,
Serious.
and it's like, man, that's controlling his life. His life's out of control.
That's real.
It's
Like,
unmanageable. It's okay.
yeah, that's real. I mean, when you, I've been in meetings where I heard some pretty wild things about pornography addiction that I had because I thought the same thing. It's funny you're saying the same things that I thought. Like, yeah, I looked at porn, you know, and who hasn't? But not at some of that the levels that some people are taking it. I mean, you take it that far, that's every bit as hard on you than as heroin or meth or anything like that. I think even harder. That's like, you're talking about like images that are. I remember seeing my first. This is how powerful porn is. I remember seeing like my first magazine when I was like 7. You know, over my buddies, a Playboy, and I mean, right now I can see the image,
The exact
the
image.
exact
No, it's
image.
true.
The detail of it.
I could see the exact image. So he puts this magazine in my bag. I take it home. My mom opens my bag. There's this big Playboy, dude. I just started crying. I blamed it all on him.
Man, threw him under the bus.
But that's the power of that, you know. So I try to steer clear of it.
Well, and for me, that's gonna affect my spiritual condition. Like it just, and like,
yeah, you won't feel as like your soil is as receptive to the
loosened up
blessings,
and
right? The
yeah,
seeds.
Yeah, and like with all aspects of my life, like my wife, like, do I start looking at her as an image now, or an object?
Right.
I start just looking at her as just an object to please me, and then, you know, like it starts occupying, like those images will stick in your head, like that. Like I'm the same way, dude. I remember the first porn I've seen magazine to detail.
Yeah.
Like crazy detail, like kind of gross, creepy detail, you know, but it just will stick in there. And to get that out, it just takes more and more effort. So same thing, like I respect, like Frank was saying about the food addict, I respect those guys so much because to get their fix, they close their eyes.
Right.
And that's it. And then, but for me to get a fix, like, I got to go do some work. I got to go out and manipulate some people, talk to some doctors, you know, go.
You're talking about the porn addict.
Yeah, like the porn addict.
Close their,
Yeah, they can just close their eyes and see the image is what he's saying.
Okay.
Like it's that easy for them to revisit the.
Yeah.
So it just takes tons of work. But like to say somebody can overcome something like that with a 12-step program is amazing. And I've seen it. Like guys have been able to overcome stuff like that. This lady with the food addiction is an incredible lady. She's lost weight. She's fit. Like she's feeling great about her. And you can just see it. The way she walks around, her confidence is incredible. And she did it with a 12-step program.
Yeah.
Right.
Like who would ever think my diet was 12-step program?
What'd you do to get your diet on? Yeah, did the 12.
The most powerful program there is.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I like how you were talking about how being like a spiritual person means that you're confident, and like a lot of people associate confidence with like, you know, arrogance or too much pride, and it's funny how like pride and ego can have that like double-edged sword where it's like, you know, you can be like egotistical or arrogant or whatever, but also like it's the same thing on the other end, like how you were, where it's like you feeling like not worthy or self-pity, like, oh, poor me, blah blah blah. Like that's just as much pride and ego as on the other end, you know. So it's like if you're doing that, it's like you're still being selfish, you know. It's not like in the same way as someone that's just like a dick that thinks that they're the shit walking around all the time, but it's the exact same thing. And I think that's cool. Like you're talking about the fix to that is like being more confident. So like a confident person is like spiritual, you know.
This is what
That is so true.
I've been saying this to myself a lot lately. Stay in your lane. You know, stay in your lane, because like it's hard to admit like how I am, but I guess I'll do it. But like yesterday, I was around a group of people, and I felt like this group of people should acknowledge me more.
Yeah.
Like, like I was like, no, they didn't even. And then so this is the type of thinking I got to control. Like, that's stupid. No one's thinking about me.
Yeah.
Why do they need to? So then I just stay in your lane and do your thing.
Do
you know?
you?
Yeah.
They're not. Like, why do I think that they
Roll out
need
the
to
red
acknowledge
carpet.
me? Yeah, I'm the shit. Or like,
I'll do that with like pointing out other people's character defects. Like, oh, this person did that. Like, what a douche. What a dick. And it's like, it's really none of my business.
It's their business.
Yeah, it's like, why can't I just act the way I act and like have that be okay?
Well, we've talked about that in here. Like, if we're training, and Frank will be doing something, and it's awesome. He does a good job, and Hawk will be like, "That a boy, Frank, good job." And I was like, "Shit." He doesn't even see me over here on this row machine.
I know.
I'm tearing this row machine up, and he won't even say anything. What is
over
dick?
there with Frank more than me.
Freaking, and then I'll be like, Frank's such an asshole. Over there on my row machine.
Just pulling harder, just. Oh man, that's funny.
That's funny, dude.
But
It's
I
a
think
thinking disease. So
Yeah.
true. It's a thinking disease.
Yeah, and I like pride. Talking about pride, I think it's cool. This is like staying in my lane, right? This is something I've worked on. So pride is enmity between God, with God. Like, so your conflict with God, right? If you really think about it,
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
because you're saying, well, I'm prideful in my achievements. What I have is because I did it and I earned it, or whatever it is, But like, if we elevate that spiritual condition and we're focused a little bit more on our relationship with God and we're gratitude, wow, and our soil's loosened up and we're letting those seeds sink in, and we realize more about where this stuff's coming from, and it's really a gift from God, it's a blessing from God, then why get offended with somebody if they don't acknowledge you? Why not? Because really everything I have and I've been able to hang on to is from God. I should have lost everything in my addiction. I own a business. I was so stupid in that business. I was spending money like crazy. I should have lost my wife. I almost killed one of my girls because of my addiction. I should have died.
Right.
None of that happened because of God. There's no other explanation to why it didn't happen. And so, like, even in my recovery,
you're saying that those tragic things didn't end up happening because of God, because God saved
God
you.
intervened.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Like, God intervened in those. Like the night I overdosed, I know people that have taken a lot less than that. And like, there was 3 or 4 laced fentanyl pills in there that I took and snorted.
Yeah.
And I know people have taken a lot less than that and are dead.
Absolutely.
And I should have.
Half a pill.
Yeah, like that. It's terrible. And there's 4 of them in there. I know, at least 3 or 4. But like, so like, there was some intervention in there, and for me to sit there and be all awesome, like, which I kept using after that overdose, and it was because I could control the situation. I would use smarter, But like, to look back on it now and say, wow, that was a gift from God, like, and I got to do something with that. I can't just take that for granted. Like, that was a gift from God, and my recovery is really God's recovery, right? Because without Him, without my higher power, I really wouldn't have much recovery. I'd be dead right now.
Right.
So
Wow, that's sick.
It's pretty strong, man.
Well, I'm glad for you. Really thankful for how, so Josh has gotten involved with war. I got to tell the story how we kind of met. So Josh, and you guys probably don't know this either. Maybe a little bit. I think I told you. But I met you 4 years ago?
Yeah, about
you rolled
4.
into war, and we just bullshitted. He was actively using, and we just talked. He talked about my philosophy with war, and he was gonna maybe come and do war, but he wasn't ready. And anyway, lose track of him. A couple years go by. He goes to treatment, and then I hadn't seen him, and I remembered you because I remember our conversation. So I see him at out there in Kaysville when we had plugged war in out there in Kaysville, and he came to say what's up, and we got talking and BSing. He's like, "What? You got 2 years sober?" And he's telling me about, and I'm venting to him about my financial life and how I'm never going to get into a house. And because, again, because I was worried about like just the way I make money and credit and whatever. So he hits me up that night. He calls me and he says, dude, I got a house right around this corner from War that I bought. He's like that I'll just sign the deed over to you that you can, and I'll just be the bank.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, what do you mean? Like I was like confused. And so I literally go down, I look at this house. It's the one I'm in now. Literally, I can throw a rock from sitting right here to the house. Mm-hmm. And like, 10 days later, I move in. So I take my family. It's right before Christmas. Huge blessing, I've been driving around, I had to move my family into an apartment for 3 years because we lost my house over there. So that was a blessing. It was a nice place we lived, but it was hard to lose that house and move my family into an apartment, kind of traumatic, I think, looking back financially. And so I moved my family into this house, and then we've just become good friends. I train him. He write in programming in here. He just kills it in here, and every morning rolling up here, and got to know Frank, and now he's a part of War and helping the business and put it all together, our nonprofit, and it's just weird.
Crazy the way God works.
Weird. It is,
God.
And like the progress since I met him and Frank and Don and all you guys with what's happened in my life, it's been a huge blessing. And with this program, this program's better than it's ever been. And we're getting ready to possibly move locations into a bigger, it's pretty nuts. So I just wanted to bring that up and tell you guys that I love you.
Love you too, brother.
It is pretty cool, the connections we make here in recovery and just through the stuff we do. I mean, there's no other people I'd rather hang out with than you messed up drug addicts.
Yeah, straight
just
up.
Insecure bastards.
Yeah, some sick people.
It's cool how God's just the master chess player, right?
Yeah.
Like how that, like I'm getting like choked up over here because it's cool. Like it's just awesome. You sit back and you lay something out like that, like just one experience, two people.
Yeah.
In this world of how many people.
Right.
And God had enough love and cared enough to line that up and set that up, and it's been a huge blessing to me. Like Dustin didn't mention this, but my sobriety kind of plateaued right at that time too. Like I was plateauing and I was worrying about it and
about slipping back.
Yeah, not as much as slipping back, but just like
not progressing.
I wasn't
growing
progressing.
anymore.
Not feeling fulfilled.
I wasn't feeling fulfilled, and I didn't know what to do, and I had all these crazy ideas, and then like war's been war will help anybody. Like if you open up your mind, and like it's an incredible program, and just to be able to be like a little bit a part of this is a huge blessing. It's been a blessing to my whole life, my family, my kids, my business. So.
Even though your wife thinks me and you are gay.
Well, she thinks we're gay, and she's always like, "You got to quit talking like Dustin. You got to quit looking like you're so weird. All you do is talk about Dustin." And I'm like,
honey, I put 195 pounds over my head today. So I don't care.
Yeah,
it's
but Frank and Dustin think that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's just like, who the hell's Frank and Dustin?
Yeah.
But and it's just cool. Like I just Frank, like the relationships we make here are just amazing. It's amazing to be able. I met Don for a little bit and had a connection with him.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna put you on blast, Don.
Oh shit!
I need you to come up here every morning and work out
every
with us.
morning.
No, at least
I'll come up.
at
I'll
least
come up.
four.
I'll,
at least
I'll get
4
back
days.
into it. Now I move back in the
Yeah.
spot. 4 days, man. I'll start with 2.
2 days a week.
2 days at work.
I'll start with 2.
2 days at
Flip
work.
flop his spiritual work.
Yeah.
2 days.
Dude, I could use it, man. I need to get back in the gym, man.
Yeah, I need to get you back out here.
Absolutely.
I missed you.
Yeah, I'm feeling weak too, man.
Yeah, you look a lot smaller.
Do I? I probably.
You look weak.
Yeah, you look,
Dustin's
I'm gonna be
terrible,
tripping on that
man.
all day,
look
dude.
I know. Don't listen to Dustin.
I've been saying that anyway. I'm like, I feel like I've been losing weight. Like,
Yeah, you just
not in a
look-
good way. I feel I've been losing muscle.
well, you look soft.
I'm gonna go throw that shirt away in my truck. He told me
Yeah.
to change my shirt. I was like, I like that shirt.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go
he's
burn
never
it
wearing that
tonight.
again, ever. He's never wearing that again.
It's hilarious. Well, I love you guys. This has been a good one.
Love you too, brother.
Good podcast, Josh. Thanks for coming on and have you on more and keep this thing going. And we'll thanks for listening. Remember, we're on Instagram, War Addiction, Workout Addiction Recovery. As we're on Facebook, and then if you ever need to get a hold of us or anything, look at our website. Our email's on there, workoutaddictionrecovery.com. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
See ya.